Good morning and happy Sabbath, boys and girls. Are you ready for a super fun, super exciting, action-packed story? If you are, I want you to take your seatbelts, buckle them in, because we're in for a wild ride. So before we get on, I just want to ask you a couple questions. I want to make sure you're ready for this kind of thing, right? Have you ever been in a battle? Whether it's a battle for the last piece of chicken or who gets to play on the computer first. I know I've been in a few of those battles. It's still battles, and we go through our own battles, but today I'm going to tell you about a specific person's battle. So there once was a young soldier who found himself in a terrible battle, and I'm not talking a piece of chicken. This was life and death. The enemy was so big and so strong that they couldn't fight him off. No matter what they did, they kept losing. And at this point, there was one thing left to do, and it was to run away for their lives. So this young soldier and his friends started running away from the battlefield, running away, but the problem was the enemy was chasing them. So they kept running and running, but they were tired. And this young man ran so hard and so fast that he accidentally lost his friends. And he couldn't keep up with the running. So he had to make some decisions. He looked around and saw a rocky ledge that had a cave. And knowing that he was exhausted, he said, you know what? It's time for me to hide. So after he crawled into the cave, he fell on his face in the darkness. And he desperately cried out to God and said, God, please save me. Protect me from my enemies. I promise, God, if you save me, I will serve you for the rest of my days. He looked up from his prayer and he saw a spider that began to weave a web at the entrance of the cave. And as he watched this delicate little thing, threads like the spider web at the entrance, he thought to himself, God, I asked you for protection and deliverance, and you sent me a spider? How can a spider save me? His heart was hardened, meaning he wasn't very happy with God. All he could think about was how his enemies were going to soon discover him and kill him. And soon he heard the sound of his enemies. They were scouring and looking for anyone that they could kill. And one soldier actually walked right up to the cave's entrance. And the young man thought, oh man, this is it. He made a plan. He crouched in the darkness of the cave and hoping that maybe some way, somehow, he could just surprise his enemy last minute, desperately jump out at him and fight for his life. His heart was pounding out of control as he waited in the darkness. He watched the enemy cautiously move to the entrance of the cave, and he saw the spider web, which was now completely strung across the opening of the cave. The enemy, he stood back and looked and said, there can't be anyone in this cave. They would have to break through the spider web to enter. Let's just move on. And wow, was the soldier relieved. This spider that was sent from God had actually saved his life. Boys and girls, this is a reminder to us that God's ways are not our ways. And even if we can't understand how he's doing it, we have to trust him. In fact, he reminds us this in many verses of the Bible, and here's just a few. In Isaiah 41:10, he says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Psalms 23, even though I walk through the darkest valley like this soldier had, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And lastly, in Deuteronomy 31:6. And boys and girls, I want you to say this to yourself every day. Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be terrified of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. Whatever you're scared about, whatever you're terrified about, whether it's school, whether it's friends, whether it's trying a new experience, he reminds us that whatever you're terrified about, the Lord goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. So whatever happens, boys and girls, trust God with all your heart. I want you to do it with me so you can remember not just a little piece of your heart, not just half of your heart, but trust God with all your heart, right? And years later, that young soldier actually went to become a preacher. And he reminded us that where God is, a spider web is a stone wall. But where God is not, a stone wall is a spider's web. Be blessed.